Good morning. Just providing an extra minute for everyone to jump in. Даваме още минута, за да може всички да се присъединят. Добро утро.
So good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be back for the third day of our conference, Clean Energy for People. We are continuing from yesterday, continuing the program to develop it. Now we are going to talk today about best practices on energy efficiency and domestic heating. The event, again, is going to be fully in English with a Bulgarian channel. You can switch between the Bulgarian and English translation by the interpretation button that you can see at the menu below. This event, again, just to let you know, is organized by Za Zemiata, Friends of the Earth Bulgaria, with our partners from E3G and CE Bankwatch Network. With the kind media partnership of the Bulgarian National Radio. This year's edition, again, is placing focus on challenges and efforts on scaling energy efficiency, building renovation, and accelerating the development of clean heating on individual and district scales. Heat pumps are going to be at the forefront, solar panels, district heating, and we're going to have discussions on their potential and economic viability. Now my pleasure is to introduce our first speaker for the day, Denisa Petrova from Greenpeace, who will tell us about the reconstruction of Horenka Hospital in Ukraine. And just a short introduction, Denisa has led the Greenpeace Bulgaria office since its establishment. And from 2022, since last year, she is managing a team focused on the green recovery of Ukraine from the devastation of the war. Denny, now the floor is yours. If you want, I could just share the video that you wanted us to see. Just let me know.
Yes, and hello everyone. Good morning. And would it be better if we speak in English or in Bulgarian? That's like I just have this pending question.
Totally up to you, Denisa. Totally up to you.
Me.
There are two channels with translation, so you're free to.
Okay. So before you share the video, let me say a few things about it, about the team. And the video it's with Bulgarian subtitles, but it has also English ones, so you can do both. So just few words I wanted to say about what we do in Ukraine. And the team there, Greenpeace Central and Eastern Europe, decided to move and help the environmental movement in Ukraine back in the summer of 2022. So it's a recent beginning of this project. It's called Greening the Reconstruction of Ukraine. We have a small team now that's 3 people based in Kiev and Kiev region. And I think since July till now, we actually managed to advance a lot with the messaging there, with the project that we realized, and all this done in a quite unusual circumstances, as you all know, with the war, with the air raids there, with everything. And I just wanted to say also that today is a commemoration of Chernobyl event, and we've been preparing communication with our Ukrainian team about that. It's 37 years after Chernobyl, and we are talking about Zaporizhia now. You know, this is another nuclear power plant that is occupied, and hopefully with projects like the ones that I'm going to show you, we will go away from nuclear energy and its production as soon as possible in Europe and in the world. Just wanted to open up with this because I'm in Ukraine in my head almost every day. So, but okay, so the story of what I'm gonna tell you more about, it's a village north of Kiev, which was attacked in the first days of the war in February, March last year. And yeah, let's start with the video, and then I'll tell you more about what we did. I can actually translate faster.
Please do, Danny.
Yeah, please. So this is, and I just gonna talk over it. This is the hospital, and shield came very close to it, so it destroys completely the heating system because it destroys the cycle of this building. And actually, the hospital doesn't have electricity from March till May for 3 months. It gets completely disconnected. No electricity. They don't have. They keep a bit of the heating system, and they keep working as a hospital during this spring months. And then we chose the hospital to install thermopumps. As this is, you can see the hospital itself in the 3D, so you can see the building. We chose it because there's a very good roof. So there were wells 65 meters deep done to test for the thermopumps. And the thermopump is ground to water. And also, to make sure that it doesn't stop working during the air raids, we put solar panels, which are completely they're calculated to fuel the thermopump. And already 60% of the consumption is covered by this solar system. The project is done with several NGOs. This is one of the representatives of them, Eco Club Rivne, Eco Action, and Greenpeace. We were the leading ones. You can see the installation. And this is our pilot project. As I said, it's called, the bigger project is called Greening the Reconstruction of Ukraine. And with it, we want to start partnership between progressive towns in Europe and Ukraine. And this is our main campaigner, Denis Tsutsaev, who organized the whole process. So we can go back to the presentation now. Here is the data that we see every day. On a daily basis, we see the consumption and what is produced from what. And here all the partners organizations. Eco Action, Eco Club. Thank you, Stanislav. All right. And let me share my screen. Hold on a second. It's because of this. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, but it's not now. It's in full screen mode.
Yeah,
Thanks, Denita.
Yes. So I wanted to show you more because I think in video you can see more. You can imagine the situation. The video everything was filmed in February when it was the official opening of this project. We wanted to have an example, a good example, how the green reconstruction should look like in Ukraine. And that's how we end up finding this exact municipality. The hospital covers the whole region there. It's Hostomel region. It's north of Kiev, close to Bucha, Irpin. It's that region which was heavily damaged already in the first days of the war. Here it is. It's a village, but it's like in Ukraine, the villages are quite big. So it's like a regional center there for this north of Kiev place. Our main task, what we wanted to do with the project is to ensure the independence of the building, the energy independence of the building. That in case of power cuts or in case of some other like weather events, but shortages of electricity, the hospital can be operational without using fossil fuel generators. That was one of the tasks, main tasks, to make sure we have example of energy infrastructure for critical objects, like hospitals in Ukraine, so they can be independent no matter what happens. And of course, as Greenpeace, we need to make sure that we're in line with the zero carbon solution, so less emissions. The most modern technologies are used in this project, and this can be really an example. So here, I hope you can see it well, some technical data, sorry. We chose the roof because it was not a broken roof. Like it will be as blunt as this. After the shielding of the hospital, the windows were broken, but overall, this roof was very southern roof, so very easy for us to install and to get as much solar energy as possible. So the building area is 320 square meters. And now, even if the hospital wants to add some panels, they can do that because there are some additional buildings and roofs around them. What was calculated? The panels were calculated to have the capacity needed for the heat pump. So it has 12 kilowatt capacity installed on the roof. And we expect that this will produce the 12,000 kilowatt hours that are needed for the thermal pump to work. The beautiful thing, I think the batteries are quite efficient. They're not too big. They're 8 kilowatt hours. That's the storage capacity. And what we showed already for the months that were in March and April that it was running, it's already saving a lot of energy and respectively a lot of bills, a lot of money, the project. We expect like on a yearly basis that we'll have 70% less energy consumed by this building. And in money, that is 80%. And you can see down, like for example, it's in grivni, 60,000 grivni. That's now the cost of heating with heat pump, and before it was 300,000 grivni. So already we see the good effects on the project. Here is the inverter systems. We're probably gonna update them a bit because just on the market there was not a bigger one, but maybe we'll do some changes soon on that. But it's working pretty well right now. And here is some data. I don't want to be too technical, but if you have some more technical questions later, you can send them to me. So this is 2 days after installation, 26th of January. And the story here goes with the war. This is a day of heavy air attack. So actually, when there is air attack in Ukraine, if it's very dispersed, they cut off the electricity before, so that there is not bigger problems on the grid. So on 26th of January, the electricity was cut off just because like they didn't want bigger destruction. And this is the data from the system, the solar system with the heat pumps that we've installed. You can see the solar is the yellow, of course. And then the blue color is when the hospital is getting the electricity from the batteries. So already on this day, which was without electricity in Horenka, in the whole region of Kiev, the work in the hospital went on. The electricity, like everything was provided because the solar system managed to cover the needs. And you see in the morning at 6, that's the red color is from the grid, when electricity comes from the grid. So the 6 o'clock before the sun, it was coming from the grid, then it was cut off because of the central cutting of electricity. And you got battery and solar fueling the hospital. This is February 14th. So again, in the winter, this is more like a normal day without air raids. So basically what happens right now is from sunrise right until like some lunch, like noon or like 10, 11, all the energy comes from the solar system, the batteries get filled, and then later in the afternoon, actually it's just that you get, at one point you cannot fill more the batteries, so, and the excessive energy doesn't have where to go at this point. And then all the way up till 8 o'clock, it's mainly charged by the solar system and the batteries, the hospital. And that's in February, really like the 2 weeks, 2 weeks after installation. And here we have some, the data for the whole month of February. 46% of it was coming from the solar. Then March data, 57%, of course, it's more sun. And April, until basically 2 days ago, already 60% of the electricity use was from the solar system, charging the heat pump. So we can see that as the summer months come, more and more of the electricity will be from this system. And what I want to say here also is we are waiting for the net billing legislation to come into place in Ukraine. Because right now, the energy that is after filling the batteries, like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, after that, the system still produces, but like now we don't have where to store it. So it will be really beneficial if it goes directly to the grid, all this electricity, but it's not legally possible. We expect in the summer this legislation to be passed in the Ukrainian Verkhovna Rada, in their parliament. And so in this case, this installation will be even more beneficial. This is like, I can say, I don't know about the Bulgarian legislation, but I know now it's very low, this process of the net mulchit and the net billing. This is taking forever. And I'm not even following it anymore since I'm working in Ukraine. But we can see that in times of war, things can happen so quickly when it's so obvious the benefits of such a solar system with heat pumps. It's so like easy to see the benefits. So even the parliament, already the legislation is in the commissions. My colleagues have presentation of what our project in the parliament. So things are moving very fast if needed. And okay, that's the April data, waiting for the net billing. And here a bit more data about data, just money spent on gas heating, what was historical data before. So in 2018, the hospital got insulation, right? So before that, that's the yearly consumption of gas. Before the insulation was 22,500 cubic meters of gas. Very good that in 2018 they put the isolation, so the building got better with energy efficiency. So that was reduced to 7,500 cubic meters of gas per year. And now, since we put our system there, we expect this to be really, really like nothing. The old gas system is kept somewhere just to have it as a reserve. But now, the money that we expect yearly to be spent for heating are about 8,000 euro, maybe. And all this money, like before the gas heating, it was both from the municipality and 1/3 was state covered through subsidies before that. So this is all like common money, like municipality or state, but we can see how much public money can be used now for something else, not on gas and not to have, all these emissions. So this is what we present to all the Ukrainian municipalities, because we did a webinar about them and more than 50 municipalities listened to the story. So we are supporting them now to go into this direction. And this is projected savings again from switching to heat pumps. And this is more savings in terms of energy. So we expect this to go up to 80% savings. We don't of course, we started to accumulate data from February. So once February comes, we'll know the exact numbers, but we already see for a few months this big progress. 80% savings of energy. And well, this picture, as you see, now I have to say want to say a few things about how we position the whole project politically. On the picture, you see Robert Habeck, the Vice Chancellor of Germany. He's the Minister of Economy and Climate Action, together with Denis Tsutsaev, our main campaigner, one of the 3 people working with us in Ukraine. The team is really small, as I told you in the beginning. So Robert Habeck was in Horenka, he was in Ukraine in beginning of April. This is 4th of April. And he chose our hospital, Horenka, to announce a German program for support to Ukraine. 1 million, he announced that the government will give 1 million exactly for sites, for objects, for like Horenka Hospital. Later on, we heard that because he was so impressed that this project is it's NGO municipality run, and we just did it very quickly at the end. So they decided even to extend this aid to 2 million. And they chose to do all this from Horenka after he did this visit of Ukraine with President Zelensky and all the ministries. And I'm saying it out because I think it's recognized. It's a symbol. Of course, we cannot do all the hospital ourselves, or all the schools, or all the public buildings that are destroyed right now in Ukraine, because they are a huge amount. But this is the direction of the reconstruction, where it's going. And it's really recognized by the Verkhovna Rada, to a big extent, by the parliament, and by the ministries of the other governments who are there trying to provide help. And we keep going in this direction. It's not even a year since we started the project. We are at the moment looking for progressive municipalities in Europe, and we're trying to partner them with Ukrainian municipalities who need concrete help. Like, for example, there are close to 500 destroyed schools in Ukraine right now, many hospitals, many private buildings also. And we are pushing for this partnership to happen, because the reconstruction can happen in many ways, right? It can, I remember our first idea before we did Horenka Hospital, we wanted to do a school in Bucha. Again, north from Kiev. Bucha is very famous in a bad way, like sad story happening there. But it happened that at the time in September, when we were looking for which building to make, the Ministry of Education already wanted to have the kids back in school for the school year. And then because of that, they just patched up, they fixed their old gas system. So we couldn't come with our new ideas. We didn't have the time to do that, to develop and to do the construction on this site. So I'm saying this because it does make sense what kind of reconstruction Ukrainians launch. And it is going to be up to them, but there'll be a lot of support. And our project, the whole project that we have, is that it's built in a different way. Build Back Better, that's the name of the Ukrainian NGO coalition. And we're going to keep working for that. And if you have some ideas about municipalities in Austria, Italy, Germany, wherever, that are willing to partner with Ukrainian municipality, you can find me, write to me. We have a list here. We're approaching a lot of Polish municipalities involved. And yeah, this is, I've put this slide because then I can send it to you also with the website of the project itself, where there's more and more information. And that's the website, just last pic to show you in English. And here you have the whole, it's in Ukrainian and in English. And you have the 3D and the video in English here. So anyone, yeah. That's all from my side. Now. So I'm ready for your questions if you have any, if I can answer them, of course.
Petlo, do we have a minute? I have a few things to comment and ask. Hurry.
Yeah. I see that you have raised your hand, so that's why I'm waiting for you to start.
Oh, thank you. Denita, well, great job. It's really fantastic because Ukraine will be reconstructed, and this has to be a green reconstruction, and you have piloted a very important test case for this. I can't reiterate strongly enough the fact that renewable energy sources can work in the so-called island mode, unlike the rest of the system, which means that even when things go as catastrophic and as bad as in Ukraine, where power infrastructure, electricity and gas grids are being bombarded constantly and assaulted constantly with the risk of serious blackouts for the population around the country. The presence of renewable energy sources actually provides security like no other source. And this is valid everywhere, and it's an important thing that we need to keep repeating around our region. Hopefully, we'll never get in a situation like in Ukraine, but still, this is a source which basically requires no fuel, which, if maintained properly, once built, it can really work with very little maintenance for years and provide this practically free energy that that keeps it running and that we require. I have questions. One is, where did you find the technical, maybe it was somehow tackled in the presentation, but still just briefly, where did you find the technical capacity to build it? Because we will be talking about skills and the lack of skills today. Were these the people from the region, maybe in Horenka, or was it from the outside, or was it a mix of it? Was it easy, the entire solution? So was it more like plug and play, easy to install, or did it take many hours to build and set up?
So the people who installed it, the company is Ukrainian. So I learned more and more the Ukrainians are actually quite literate about engineering, about, even though the I'm sharing the big problem in front of the municipality is actually the lack of educated people now, because of all the, a lot of them left the country. So like whoever could get out of there, left. So now they have this problem. But we found the company is Ukrainian who did this. Some of the parts were coming from, we do provide some stuff through Poland. That's the channels that we bring things. but we find it. Yeah, I mean, things get delivered through Poland to Ukraine. And as I said, we were waiting, for example, to change one of the inverters there, but it is knowledge. I think it is key to do this reconstruction. And yes, we will have the same problem in Ukraine also, like lack of knowledge, like lack of engineers, and then lack of parts that we can do, because the scale is huge, right? Like of reconstructing there now.
Yeah, I can understand why Ukraine lacks this capacity. I can't understand why EU lacks this capacity, considering that everybody supposedly is immigrating in the EU, but we have the same problem all over the place. What happens with the energy in the summer when supposedly you would have a lot more excess energy? You know, we saw the graphs mostly for winter months when this heat pump is operating in heating mode. Are you going to be using it for cooling of the hospital, or would you be storing it, or is it grid connected? I'm not sure that I got this from the presentation. Are there any plans for that?
It is grid connected, but at that moment we cannot give the energy to the grid because of legal, not because of technical reason. The legislation is not in place yet. And what we'll do with energy, well, I guess it will be just like now. I mean, we store until the batteries get filled until 10 o'clock a.m. because, you know, the sun rises at 7 or 6 even in the summer. And then that's it. I mean, we can't, it's like a bit, we can't use this energy. So I hope that soon the legislation will be in place so we can give the excess of the energy back to the grid itself.
Fantastic, thank you. And indeed, your graphs did show the role of batteries in the whole thing, because when the peak consumption is there, they were the ones feeding back to the system. That's it on my end. Thank you so much for this presentation.
Oh, anytime I can give it. I'm so proud of, you know, this small team that we have there and what they did. So anytime I can give this presentation.
Thank you from my side too. Thank you, Denitsa. It was really inspiring to see what you are doing in Ukraine, and hopefully the things could scale up there too, so we could try to help even better. And now we are going to the next presentation, to the next panelist. We're going to Teodora Peneva, and just a short introduction. Teodora is an economist, senior researcher assistant at the Institute of Economic Research at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, and a senior energy and climate expert at WWF Bulgaria. She holds a PhD in energy poverty from the Sofia University, and she had and she is an expert in EU poverty observatory. Dr. Peneva has a number of scientific publications and contributions to projects with expertise in climate and energy social policy. And now she is going to present us the best practices of the best energy efficiency practices in Central and Eastern Europe, national energy and climate plans. So Teodora, now the floor is yours. You can just share your screen, and if you need some assistance from my side, just let me know.
Thank you, Светослав. Благодаря ви за представянето. Аз ще си позволя да направя.
Thank you for the presentation. I will speak in Bulgarian, relying on the interpreters. And let me start by some background on the project. Within the Life Biobalance project, I will tell you a bit more about it. It is a joint project between WWF Bulgaria and Habitat for Humanity, and the offices in Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary, in partnership with the energy agency Plovdiv. The aim of the project is to help the 3 EU member states to move towards a low-carbon and sustainable economy through the sustainable use of biomass. The project is holding a series of meetings, webinars, and roundtables with experts and stakeholders in order to improve the policies related to firewood, energy efficiency in heating, and to address the fuel shortage. In this part, I'm going to present the results of a summary of best practices in the national plans on energy and climate of the EU member states. We have analyzed about 14 such national energy and climate plans, and we have summarized 45 best practices in 3 spheres, 15 measures in each sphere for energy poverty, energy efficiency, which I'm going to shortly present today, and as regards heating systems and renewable energy. Today, I have summarized best practices in 4 main spheres. The first one, and the most important one, is, of course, the funds for financing the measures and the designs of the measures, research and development programs of the schemes and measures themselves, energy community schemes, and information campaigns. The examples are taken mainly from Sweden, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Ireland. So this is a mix, but nevertheless, they are applicable elsewhere in the European Union. With my presentation today, I guess we're going to make an overview, rather, of the best practices, because in the past few days and today we have heard many more detailed projects about concrete cases which go much deeper into the topic. But I believe that we need to do this overview now because we are heading for the update of the national energy and climate plans, and systematizing and highlighting the main elements which are very important to highlight has to be done right now. Firstly, I will comment on the financing facilities. Almost every country has a dedicated fund for financing energy efficiency measures of households. There is a permanent fund with specific goals, not only long-term ones, but also annual goals, like doubling the percentage of renovated buildings, which are general in the respective directives on energy renovation in the directives, but there are concrete and ready to implement, easy to implement objectives. We have published a report with best practices on the topic, of course, with easy to achieve targets, for example, 10,000 renovated buildings, or planting trees for every newborn child. These are the details, but what's very important is the annual distribution of these goals for them to be measurable and binding them with different tools, not only from the fund itself, where we have investment grants, but also to have clear models of co-financing, including other instruments, private investments, and even tax relief We have given examples in the report with the intentions of Bulgaria to include certain elements in the topic for energy efficiency and include merchants of solid fuel with annual sales of all above 500 tons. We believe this is a practice which is very good, and these schemes for obligations on energy efficiency have to be applied for households as well. Whenever we talk about households, we talk about a general fund and a component which should be a separate one on energy poor households.
In the design of the actual funds, it's very important to have not just comprehensive plans for comprehensive renovation, but also for partial renovation, like partial changing of the joinery of windows, and there are such possibilities in Turkey. Also, it's good to have a plan for renovation of individual standalone building, individual houses, as well as condominium properties. And last but not least, a separate dedicated program for social housing in Bulgaria. This in particular is a component that has been underestimated, and it is necessary to have a dedicated inclusion in future funds. Last but not least, combining technical and financial assistance. This has to be provided and should be taken into account when early on. I'm sorry that I go into these details, but in Bulgaria we really hope to have a permanent fund early next year to support measures for energy efficiency. All other countries have those. So I'm summarizing practices, some accompanying measures that are inseparable when designing funds. I will list them in a different order. First, it's very important is spatial energy planning and housing development. It's important that funds be evidence-based on empirical data based on spatial plans. And also, the certificates for improved energy performance should be taken into account, and a register of buildings should be put in place. Countries in the EU have progressed more on that. We know that such registers are being set up in many countries, not quite often, but this is a very important tool to help planning and efficient allocation of resources, and also for planning the measures for funding. So these are essential. Also, the measures for targeted qualification for civil engineers, architects, and other specialists. Next, we are viewing the research programs. A permanent feedback that is essential both early on at designing the measures together with spatial planning, but also during the implementation of the measures. In Ireland, for example, there are dedicated units that deal with behavioral economics, and they monitor all the time the responses of users. So this allows for timely intervention and adjustment, extending programs based on feedback from users. Also, Austria, another practice. At the first stage of planning, early on when designing the funds, they have data, already data collected on the sources of heating, and this can and waste heat sources. So this can be an extra source of energy, maybe if not financing, extra source of finance, of extra source that could boost energy efficiency measures. Next. And very briefly, energy communities are an integral part of the East energy and climate plans, and we view them in more detail in the third system, in the third area about equipment and energy from renewables. It's very important to say that this can be viewed as a standalone extra source of funding, especially where state budget investment capital more limited and where there's purely private initiative, introducing incentives by the state in order to get on board energy poor households, other households. This is the way to propagate the effect to. So when I say incentives, this can be a whole range. They can be financial or tax, like tax breaks and tax incentives. They need to be really efficient and effective so that investors are really motivated to include more households so that the heating not be returned to the system but used. In Ireland, we heard quite a lot of interesting things during this conference even, but Ireland, since 2012, they have a dedicated program for better energy communities, which has already delivered over 400 projects, 1,800 homes with over 2,500 communities, both public and private buildings. And also this includes the renovation of the buildings. This is data just as of end of 2019. The plans, of course, the countries give information on the estimates, the budgets for these schemes. So we recommend separate schemes, programs for energy communities when updating the plans. And we in Bulgaria will be really looking at this and so that it happens. Last but not least, information centers and campaigns. Only some of the specific examples are listed here. The first one being from Croatia. They have a national energy efficiency portal. There is a counterpart in Hungary, in other countries as well. This would be a website with information that is divided by consumer or user group, like members of public households, public buildings, private buildings, business buildings. And in these websites, everyone can share good practices and information about service providers, more news about different tenders, auctions, calls organized by events organized by municipalities, also by service providers, NGOs, also regarding the obligations and new obligations and new legislative initiatives that come around. So this is detailed, systematized information, structured information, as well as the establishment of this practice of one-stop shop. We really very eager to have this in Bulgaria. So this would, this service, these facilities would allow, would support members of the public in to promote energy efficiency projects. In Sweden, they have Sustainable Building Information Center, and their survey research reports are being provided for specific groups. And in addition to the overall information campaign, it is important to have also centers for knowledge sharing, where all those engaged in the sector be trained, be educated. We know that the capacity in each country should be further extended. Also, education, qualification should be promoted. Upskilling is a very essential part of the entire wave of energy retrofitting of buildings, and of course, proper working conditions. This is mandatory part of the future development of measures. We would like today to discuss these measures. As I said, this is like a summary, rather, like a summary with some highlights on the measures. We really do not expect to see a measure that has not been mentioned, because energy efficiency is indeed important and much discussed element of the Green Deal as a whole. So what we would like is to have a discussion, and we would very much appreciate if the participants really take active part in the discussion and say whether these practices can be implemented in Bulgaria. Also, what do you think are the most important things that should go into the national energy and climate plan? And of course, how we can cooperate in the future, designing, drafting of the strategy and the actual implementation. Thank you.
I also thank you, Teodora. By the way, we have a few questions from the audience. Let me remind you that to whoever is watching on Zoom, they can pose their questions in the Q&A section. The chat is only working for the panelists in Zoom. You could follow this discussion and ask questions in our YouTube and Facebook channels. So, yes, I can see Stefan is writing in the Q&A session. Please pose your question there. It is technically possible, but we cannot allow you to pose your question live through your microphone. I'm going to ask some of the few questions that we received. The first question I can see is the following. What are the two best practices in energy efficiency which could have the best effect in Bulgaria in the short term and long term? How do I understand this question? Which is the measure which is most needed in the short term and not give the greatest effect, and in the long term as well? If there was only one measure we could introduce, which would it be in order to achieve the best energy efficiency result? Thank you for this question. It is very pertinent. In my opinion, the best measure is to introduce an effective model of co-financing and promoting it so that it is well perceived by society. This model should should use the mechanism for protection of energy poor households. Firstly, in order to have a more efficient distribution of future financial resources, the most important measure is planning. Currently, we don't have good spatial planning by region and municipality, and we don't. So that we know that when we have 1 billion euro on the one fund or another, how to allocate it in the most effective way, and using this co-financing measure for it to reach the greatest number of people possible, so that these resources are doubled. This is wishful thinking at this point, but let's say 20-30% increase through own participation will be a good result. Thank you. And I remember that yesterday we closed the discussion with the progress on building renovation. All participants, including Dragomir Tsane from NFECT, we had participants from Estonia, Latvia, who are keeping an eye on what is happening in their own countries. And we mentioned that what is important is to have continuation of the financial resources, not to have a start and stop of different programs, because we would have a distortion of the picture. We need to have a long-term planning vision. I can read another question from Zoom, from Stefan. When are we going to see practical information like the one from the Center of Georelief in Slatina for all the areas? I guess you mean the regional centers, one-stop shops. As far as I know, in Slatina neighborhood in Sofia, it is not under the resilience and recovery plan, but under another project. So when can we expect the one-stop shops to be operational and to start working? I don't know. We are all waiting for these one-stop shops to start operating. If there are any representatives on part of the ministries, especially of the regional development and public works, probably they would give a better answer. We are an NGO. We rather follow the policies and how they are developed. From our point of view, we can say that other countries have national energy and climate plans, and they have one-stop shops which are bound to the population of the respective city. We have often given an example with Croatia. They have such one-stop shops in all towns with more than 30,000 inhabitants. So the 6 centers which are expected under our Bulgarian plan will not be enough. This has to be a long-term process, and in order for it to be more intensive and to achieve better results, it needs to be supported with administrative and technical support. So we're also waiting for information. We are expecting several things from the government. As you know, last year, and in the beginning of this year, we saw the design of numerous reforms for energy efficiency, and the one-stop shops are a part of this. We had a definition of energy poverty. There was a Spatial Planning Act. It is already a plan. It is already has been voted for, but we expect other pieces of legislation to be published and to enter in force. The government should act fast, because the government can only support the citizens and the entire process. There are no political conflicts in these regulations, and we are looking forward to see them enter in force. That's all from me. If you have any other questions, or if you would like to make a comment, you're welcome. May I have a comment? Apostle Diankov is my name. I'm from WWF. I'm a colleague of Theodoros. I work under the energy and climate plans. Let me just add that the energy and climate plans has been updated, as some of you know. The first draft should be ready by 1st of June this year, and I appeal to, on behalf of NGOs, to the Bulgarian government and to the other governments in CEE countries to make these plans public and to create very good platforms where the opinion of experts, stakeholders, and multi-level dialogue could be used. So in the coming year, where these plans should be finalized, we should have a dialogue in the meantime and supplement all the documents necessary. Thank you, especially to Theodora for the wonderful presentation.
Много бърз коментар от мен.
A quick comment on my side as well. Not so much a question. I believe that it's wrong to focus only on one thing. We have a need to have a mixture of solutions suitable for different parties. In the previous days, we heard there is hostility towards some solutions, for example, which are rather in the US style, for example, tax breaks or tax reliefs. But there are a group of households for which it would be a suitable measure, and this could be a fast track for their projects, and there would be less red tape so that with fewer effort they could save some taxes designing the clean energy project or energy efficiency project. There are numerous households for which the right decision would be different. Such households are better off. And for them, in the past, there was a 100% grant, and you would receive what you were offered without an opportunity to pay some more and be more ambitious. I hope this is something which is changed in the programs to come. But there could be certain minimums which are 100% grant for covering the needs of energy poor households. However, people who can afford, in order to have a higher energy efficiency class, to be able to do it, supplementing the grant with own contribution. Institutions comment that there is no interest in similar financial instruments, but and the truth is we haven't tried to popularize these and prove whether there would be real interest or not. Thank you, Gennady, for these clarifications. We are of the same opinion that there should be a variety of instruments. I heard the person reacting against tax relief yesterday because this requires you to make the first installment yourself and wait for it to be reimbursed. But this is a measure focused at the working population with good incomes so that they could afford to use tax relief and at a sufficient amount in order to feel the benefit of these measures. Yes, this is so, but I don't believe that the reaction against a measure is right. I think that in view of the lack of financial instruments and in view of the limited resources, not only now but in the future, I'm not sure when we will have 40 billion in order to have the housing renovation, even not at 100%, but at 50%. as the long-term housing strategy says. And in this sense, the sooner all the options are introduced, the better. If I live in a block of flats with too many energy poor households, or apartments which are not inhabited, or the organization would move very slowly and would hardly achieve application for financial funds. I would like to have the option to provide a fund myself. We shouldn't make people give up because of certain downsides to a given option. Every group of society requires the right instruments, dedicated instruments, targeted and tailored in accordance to their needs. Energy poverty is very important. The definition we have about energy poverty presupposes flexibility and development. It's not constant, like the official poverty line. The way it has been formulated allows better covering of groups which are not able to contribute with their own financial resources. So I look forward to these reforms taking place. And in order not to be accused of black and white talking, there are some forms of tax relief. For example, not having to pay property tax if you apply energy efficiency measure exists, although it is compensated by raising other local taxes and fees, according to experts. But this is not enough in order to be a real incentive. Of course, we can further develop and build on top of this. Thank you for your attention and for allowing me to present here. I don't see any other questions from the audience. There are some comments, some broad questions, like speaking of laws, what is next concerning the national recovery and resilience plans, but this deviates from our topic. There is another question from Facebook. When can we be supported in order to be energy independent? But these are huge topics, and if you'd like to say a few words, okay. If not, we'll continue the discussion elsewhere.
Indeed, these topics are quite lengthy, and we first expect investment of 1 billion of BGN under the RRP. I know that some programs have already been launched, documents are being submitted, and co-funding will start shortly. This is support. Even the first phase is 100% of support, so everyone will get support. And what the outreach of this funding would be is another question, and this exactly is it is about better planning and strategic vision, to design more instruments and to have broader outreach. And my estimates show that with good planning, around 8% of the population can be from 8% to 15% of the population can be assisted up until 2030 with good planning, with the 2 billion that so far have been invested for household. 3% of the population were covered. So if we can double this at least, this could be a great achievement, even 3 times. If we even increase it threefold, this would be a realistic and basically tangible support for everyone. Thank you, Teodora. In this sense, in a fund for decarbonization or social climate fund, measures for heating systems, for installing solar panels and collectors for energy poor households, particularly for this segment, or with a differentiated with a scheme for differentiated means-based support as share of cost, the outreach could be much bigger, both for heating systems and for replacement of equipment. Such programs could they will be actually designed in the plan for protection of environment for a clean air, and not only there. Thank you. This was exactly one comment that we got on the Facebook for the and for the program of Sofia municipality for the environment, and the fact the thing that it's not that ambitious. So about the one-stop shop, from our association in June, we will be having a tour in the southwest of Bulgaria. Pernik, Dupnica, and Blagoevgrad will be testing the concept with the help of the public at large, and we hope that we will have feedback. We hope that the public would really come to know what the concept is, and this could contribute to positive developments. Thank you once again. And we continue with Ira Ivanova.
I'm going to switch back to English right now, because I think that Ira is going to present in English. And just very briefly, I'm going to introduce her. Ira Ivanova received her master's degree in energy efficient design of buildings from the Technical University of Vienna, and has working experience as architectural technician and coordinator of integrated design processes with building information modeling, the so-called BIM, in one of the biggest planning offices in Europe. Last year, in the summer of 2022, she joined the Center of Energy Efficiency and Effect in Bulgaria. And since then, she is part of a group of engineers, environmental specialists, and architects teaching an elective course on circular economy in construction at the University of Architecture, Civil Engineering, and Geodesy in Sofia. And right now, Ira is going to tell us about the need of upskilling the construction sector. So, do we have enough capacity? Do we have enough labor force in order to enable the energy efficiency transition and the switch to clean heating? So Ira, it is your turn. I see that you have shared your presentation, so whenever you are ready.
Yes, thank you, Svetslav, for the long introduction. In fact, yes. I'm going to tell you about why upskilling or raising qualifications in the construction sector is extremely relevant for just green transition, as I was listening to the previous discussion, and I believe in order to ensure this socially just transition for everyone, it is extremely important that education is part of the scheme. And a bit about the mission of the organization that I'm part of, the Center of Energy Efficiency and Effect. It is the oldest non-governmental organization in Bulgaria dealing with energy efficiency, and it has since long established itself as a supporter of the transition, the energy sustainable transition to from municipalities to universities to ministries, and has since worked under the Ministry of Education and Science for developing student materials for professional schools to teach green building design. It has took part in 24 European funded projects between 2015 and 2020 under the Horizon program. Projects dedicated to increasing capacity and providing services in construction with focus on improving energy performance of buildings, has made official statements on important national matters and strategic plans related to integrated plan for renovation and for climate and for energy, on the national plan for resilience, and has participated as in the creation of the Building Knowledge Hub network across Europe by creating 2 such training centers in Bulgaria. And all this because, well, we believe that education builds resilience, and as it is stated in the first principle of the European Pillar of Social Rights, everyone has the right to quality education, training, and lifelong learning in order to ensure that or to enable them to participate in equally in society and on the labor market. And in the end, the aim is to provide sustainable and healthy architecture for people to live in. So it enables thriving to social capital, respectively, of economic and socially just existence for everyone, while reducing ecological footprint of living as a whole. And those ambitions of the European Commission are expressed, as we know, in the Green Deal, and in the many resulting initiatives, directives, acts, and strategies with concern to the construction sector, including the Fit for 55 package of legislative strategies to ensure just and fair transition for everyone, while reducing the the greenhouse gas emissions for the whole continent until 2050, or as it is the Repower EU strategy as a result of the recent geopolitical energy realities, aiming to speed up this transition, as well as the renovation wave in Europe, aiming to renovate the building stock across the European Union as part of reducing the impact of the greenhouse gas emissions, as buildings are responsible for 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions generated across the Union. Yes, all those, in fact, all those initiative strategies and directives, they would require for everyone along the value chain in the construction sector, which corresponds to 9% of the European GDP and equals to 18 million jobs directly related to the construction sector, to prioritize ecological materials and to recreate their value chains, or to innovate on business models, to renovate, to be able to renovate, to regenerate, to recover, reuse, recycle, and so on, to digitalize and improve workflows, to maintain and operate buildings sustainably. And well, this will result in new job positions and activities, respectively in planning and design processes, alternative construction methods and technologies related to it, the application of innovative instruments, and integrated project development. And this is valid as well as for existing and as for new buildings. And well, the existing building stock in Europe is around, or the building, so to say, around 220 million building units, representing 85% of the building stock in the European Union, have been built before 2001, and around 20 to 30 million are expected to be renovated until 2030. And well, this would I mean the design, the installation, and operation of such buildings would often require higher level of technical skills, and as it is, that would also create, or it is expected to create around 160,000 green jobs in the construction sector. So, having said all this, I would like to tell you about a bit about the renovation wave in Bulgaria, beginning from in 2015 until 2020, as it has been, as it was already discussed, as I heard in the previous discussion. The idea then was that financial support was was equal to 100% of the investment for homeowners, or for the unity of homeowners of multi-family buildings that would apply for this grant. 100% of the cost would go to the ones who were designated to receive them, and as a result, around 30 to 50% of the applicants did not receive this, or did not qualify, or did not manage to qualify, because well, the money was quickly over, and only 10% of 6,000 buildings out of the 66,000 multifamily buildings, the legacy of previous regimes in Bulgaria, was renovated, while no clear priorities as to who has or could receive this 100% grant. Yes, with no clear priorities. So, yes, 40% of the population, in the meanwhile, is unable to keep their homes warm or cold, respectively, throughout the year. And while in this period, or this period should have been a period of learning, where it was where new education or training, upskilling programs were set in place because all these construction efforts, they are new types of technology, but they were only declassified, so to say, or their importance was reduced to sticking insulation on the outside facades, changing windows, and that was just about it. And while other countries invested towards more sustainable initiatives, such as creating like long-term financial programs to support the renovation, and while there were public services such as one-stop shops network that is active now in Spain, and creating of benchmarks and standards, as it is with the Klimaaktiv standard in Austria. None of this happened or no such activities happened in Bulgaria, which could be seen as the second period of renovation began with the National Recovery and Resilience as part of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Well, the same scheme is followed as the previous one.
Същата схема се използва и, както споменах преди, 100% грантова схема, но няма дефиниция за енергийна бедност и 2000 многосемейни, многофамилни сгради ще бъдат обновени енергийно, което е далече от националните или европейските цели. Има и друг начин да го разглеждаме. Това като проблем. Вижте как изглеждат обновените сгради. Понякога се допускат грешки, често заплашващи живота. Използват се работници без познания как да се обновява правилно сградите. Преди няколко седмици тези снимки са пресни. От преди няколко седмици реших да се обадя на фирмата. Те си мислеха, че искам да купя апартамент. Аз се обадих на компанията, която продава апартаментите и питах, мога ли да видя енергийния сертификат на сградата, за да науча повече за енергийните характеристики на сградата. И брокера беше изненадан и каза, досега никой не ни е задавал такъв въпрос, не ни е искал такъв документ. Не може да се правят заключения от отделни примери, но това означава, че има проблеми по веригата.
Knowledge and skills to devise a strategy which corresponds to the actual needs of the sector. And being so, NFX took part, in fact, in the year 2011 in the Build Up Skills Initiative of the European Union, which, as part of the green transition, aims to qualify to upskill the construction sector. And many countries from the European Union joined with local consortia to devise a strategy, a roadmap for upskilling or for raising the capacity of the knowledge capacity of the construction sector in order to be able to face all those new measures that are required for the buildings. And in the resulting roadmap had set had set new subjects to be taught for the professions electrician and construction technician in second and third level of professional qualification with a target set to be with the target of qualified workers to be construction specialists to be achieved until the year 2020. And however, the total number of trained specialists by the year 2020 was around 18,000. And with the additional number of trained professionals from the international projects, still the number was around 30% of the set target for the year 2020. And well, the analysis from the first from this period showed that the quality of vocational education is improving, but the interest in the sector is still low. And the acquisition of vocational qualifications and in the form of continuing education and training is not sufficient. Looking to the future, according to the Bulgarian Construction Chamber, in the year 2032, Bulgaria would need around 176,000 construction specialists with secondary education and around 50,000 highly qualified specialists, which would again propose that and in line with the global conditions, which it would require once again that there is a strategy, that there is a path, some clear actions or objectives as to how can we achieve better performance of the building sector without leaving anyone behind. And in that sense, NFEC has now become again a coordinator of the second phase of the Build Up Skills initiative, aiming to further upgrade the knowledge of the construction sector until the year 2030, when, according to the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, all new buildings must be near energy zero, and as of actually the year 2028, all new buildings must be zero emission buildings. So the new roadmap that is going to come out would include again training and including topics in the education and in the professional training and the continuing professional training of construction specialists, including energy efficiency, circular economy, and climate adaptation and digitalization, so that it could progress. And the way to approach this is first by collecting data existing and generated through qualitative and quantitative approach, considering that in fact there is very, very little data as to what the skills of the construction sector is in Bulgaria, right? Such as there is no registers of for qualified workers or for any kind of statistical information about which could tell us where are we now. Although it is visible, there is no actual numbers that would be related to it, because yes, this would be essential. But with the already started approach, the little available data that would be collected through interviews, through status quo analysis, the knowledge which would come out of it is imported, meaning the knowledge that has been acquired through a participation in international projects and affairs, and the local knowledge which exists and is generated through conferences, seminars, and various meetings. An action plan would be devised targeting the most essential points that could lead to improvement. So yes, those actions would then be expressed and directed towards better legislative acts and the public support through certification processes and creating registers for qualified specialists, through improving higher education possibilities, including the upskilling for teachers and providing better conditions for work and learning, encouraging cross-state collaboration to create new business models, to encourage competition and synergies, to further stimulate research and innovation, and of course, massive. It would be necessary to create massive information campaigns for homeowners and potential buyers, as well as for investors, to understand the massive benefits of energy efficient homes. And as already mentioned, it is essential that we begin collecting data and monitor this data in order to track progress and to steer whenever necessary. And while expecting all this to happen, NFX has already directed a lot of its efforts in producing materials and opportunities for self-learning, for easy access to self-learning, through distributing books on green architecture, creating online training platforms with modules on energy efficiency for construction and for MEP specialists and so on, and through initiating a lot of pilot trainings across from high school, professional high school students to construction workers, to engineers and architectural planners, devising even new and creative ways of distributing knowledge, like the photo at the bottom left shows this is the newest idea, that this is a passive or a near energy zero mobile training center, also a tiny house model, which has integrated the principles of passive house, and it is to serve across the country as a learning place of learning and education. And yes, with this I would like to conclude. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully together, yes, we could bring about this change and education for resilience. Thank you. I cannot hear you.
Yes, I hope that now you can. Thank you for the presentation. And now we have a couple of questions just for our audience. And actually, not having a precise assessment in Bulgaria is often used as an excuse to do nothing. So right now we don't have estimation of what we have as skills and what are the numbers of people having skills in the construction sector. And even before we had the figures, doesn't it make sense to start training right away for some of the things, not to wait to gather the data? And the question actually is, what are the possible shortcuts for catch-up at this point? Are there any possible shortcuts? Because we know that the need is going to be huge. And what should we do? Maybe online courses, specific narrow know-how trainings. What are your recommendations?
Well, absolutely. I mean, my idea with data was that it has not been collected until now. But we should start at some point. It just makes the whole thing harder. And in the meanwhile, I have been thinking, or we have been thinking about exactly those shortcuts, possible shortcuts. And in fact, it should be, well, as demonstrated, it should be at every level how shall I say, well, building as well as institutional capacity, as well as educational capacity. Starting at the same time, for many of the aspects that concern as in yes, the administrative capacity, as I said, as the educational, as the workforce should be targeted at the same time. Not that first we begin with this one, then expecting one to do something for the other, so to say, and in a sense that yes, has already been a lot has been done in this direction. It just has not been recognized, and of course, legislation should enforce this. And as I know, as of 2024, we are finally starting to work with the Energy Performance Directive. So it's gonna be a must that this is applied. However, no recipe for quick and painless approach.
Yeah. Another question on my end, which I believe there's no clear answer to, but you mentioned that Bulgaria is going to need by 2032 roughly 177,000 of workers with secondary education in the construction sector, nearly 49,000 with higher education. And my understanding is that basically we don't know what's the gap. This is what you admitted at the end. So we don't know where we stand at the moment. But at least we know, for example, what the education system more or less is spewing at the moment out. Of course, many of those people will actually move abroad. So we are unable to basically keep this workforce, but still, aren't there any theoretical ways and methods that we can at least try to do some estimation and, I don't know, get an idea about the gap?
Well, this is a very relevant question, which is part of the latest initiative for creating this roadmap. It is part of the research and of the way we could gather this data and to make the best possible assumption, or yes, it is going to be an assumption in the end as to how to approach this question. So for now, there is rather a broad discussion as to how we could achieve that. Unfortunately, cannot give you a detailed answer on that. But it would be great if anyone has an idea. Also, as part of the qualitative research that we do in the form of interviews, it is one of the questions: how could we solve that? And it seems that for many it is yes, I mean yes, a question or without a clear answer, as you suggested in the beginning.
Thank you, Ira. I don't see any other questions in our in Zoom or Facebook or YouTube. So now we are going to continue. Thank you for the presentation one more time and the following discussion. Now we are going to continue with Diman Georgiev. And just a short introduction. Diman Georgiev has been deputy mayor of Montana municipality since 2013. The sector he's responsible for are ecology and construction. He manages the two projects for the improvement of the air quality, which the municipality implements, one under the Life Plus program and the other under the operational program for environmental protection, POPOS. their focus, the focus of both of the projects is the replacement of old solid fuel heating appliances. And now the man is going to share with us what they have achieved in Montana, what have been the challenges along the way, and what lessons have been learned. So, Diman, you can just start, and afterwards we're going to have a short question and answer session. Само не чуваме микрофона.
Yes, the gentleman has his microphone off. Yes, now it's okay. Thank you. Municipality of Montana actively works on the environmental topics for the last 10 or 15 years. And we invested in quite a lot of environmental projects, both in the town and in the municipality. The latest trends, as we all know, is improving the quality of air. And there are quite a lot of issues, and what relates to Montana in terms of research in the past years, the heating with fossil fuel-based heating is among the main polluters including for PM, for particulate matter, and investment is clear. The idea is to reduce this pollution, and financial instruments are used for this. I'm sorry, but the sound is not good. Could you come closer to the microphone? Together with 6 municipalities in 2018, we started the project under LIFE program for replacement of heating appliances. The intervention was covered 580 households, 3 phases. We did the first preparatory phase, then it was the demonstration phase and the measurements where we replaced the equipment in 50 households for appliances based on pellets and more environmental fuel, and we measured the result, the impact for the actual phase where the bulk of the households was to be covered. Now we are midway. There are 10 more households that remain to have their equipment replaced by the end of this year, and 7.5 tons per year would be the savings of PM10, which is a good indicator. This means like 15 kilograms per year per household. This is one of the measures that directly goes into households. It's closest to the people. People directly feel what it is to breathe cleaner air. In the program, investments in 2 automatic measuring stations were included. The geography of our municipality is that this town is in a valley, so to say, and there is in winter all the smoke, the smog is laying in the lowland, and since Environment OP started with similar measures and with some distinctions with respect to implementation this year and in the past years, the air in Montana between October and April is cleanest with lowest fine particulate matter pollution. I told you about life program that we are working on actively. Also, in parallel, we are replacing appliances under environmental OP environment. The investment is 11 million, 30 and around 3,500 households are covered. The difference between the two programs is that environment OP, from the very beginning, replacement of heating appliances with air conditioners was allowed. These activities are actually nearing their end, and we have gas and pellets too. And I'm sorry, but the sound is not good. The interest towards the program is quite big. This made us get in touch with the managing authority of environment OP, and they will give us extra 1.1 million BGN for heating appliances, for replacement of heating appliances. The implementation of this program is quite difficult because it takes a lot of work on the ground, a lot of walking, if you want, footwork and documentation. And we adopted a very practical approach. I'm sorry, the sound is not good. So the members of the public that are already beneficiaries, more than 1,000 now, more than 1,000 households, they are very welcome. They welcome very warmly the program, because the results, the impact is not just in terms of cleaner air, but because these heating appliances are very user-friendly. They're very easy to use. And the feedback is extremely positive. The process will end towards the end of the year. More than 30 teams operate across the municipality, and they have a schedule, and they go door to door. At the moment, this is one of the largest investments as we speak. And the coordination with the operational program is extremely good. Very operational, very friendly and constructive, and this allows us to have good implementation and have results, and very really the procedure for approval and of costs and everything is very, very expedited. We know the political and economic situation in Europe in terms of gas. We know what this situation is. And this is also reflected in when in the implementation of our program, there is less willingness to use gas-based heating appliances. People tend to like more air conditioning. So this is the trend. This would be the trend. However, this would not in any way interfere with our program and the indicators. The investment in the measuring stations, the operation there is perfect, and the teams directly, actually the data is all the data is being monitored in a very efficient way. And these days we got the invitation for the new period, and we are quite clear about all the arrangements, and now we'll be taking measures for the next steps for the next programming period. As I said, the interest is very active because actually for more than 4 years we've been engaging in very active public awareness campaign among the people to explain the new opportunities. Also, we explain to the public the monitoring, the control that would be carried out on the part of the municipality in order to ensure proper use. So I will be available to answer questions. Yes, this program was tough to implement, but very, very effectual.
Thank you, Mr. Georgiev. A few questions. Let me start with a question from the Zoom. Could you repeat, because the line was interrupted? Which equipment did you use to replace the old ones? Which are the options available for the users? Currently, under Life and Environment program, equipment using gas or electricity, for example, air conditioning with heat pumps, air-to-air, or pellets. These are pellet boilers. So 3 types of environmentally friendly fuels are eligible currently. Thank you. And we are continuing with the questions we received from the other channels. An interesting question to compare 2 programs, environment and life programs, not so much as resources available, but as requirements. For example, efficiency achieved. And another question, what are the recommendations for change for the programs to come? What could be improved in the programs to come, both in life and in environment program, that you can give, recommendations you can give to the structuring authorities? There is a slight issue here in life, because in practice it started and the budgets were approved in 2018, 2019. Public procurement was carried out in 2019, 2020. And you know what happened to inflation? Now we are topping up the gap in financing with our own funds, and small municipalities with 40,000 inhabitants and small own revenues find it hard. But in general, we're managing. My recommendation is to consider not only the fixed price initial contract, but when we have a projects which will be implemented over 4 or 5 years, there should be a mechanism for compensating inflation. It's a galloping inflation, not only in Europe, but around the world. Our economies are so interlinked that we cannot have something cost an X amount here and more elsewhere. This is something which makes it harder to allocate public resources in an effective way. We need a more flexible legislative framework in order not to see municipalities unable to pay their liabilities, or in case such a mechanism of indexing cannot be put in place, the suppliers may give up. My recommendation to Life will be given shortly. Otherwise, in environment program, things are very clear. But in Life, things are different. verification is once a year. One event which makes it harder for low-budget municipalities. We should take temporary loans in order to reimburse the amounts. So these are my recommendations to have more flexible legislation, which is easy to adapt to the political, economic, environment and conditions. There are many benchmarks which can be used for this. Was there an additional question? Yes, there was a question. Can you compare the two programs, life and environment? Just let me add, how can you reduce administrative burden, both for you as a municipality and for end beneficiaries? One of the important points is that both programs are almost identical as a whole. Only the details in the documentation differ. There are different requirements, but this is normal because there are different institutions which are verifying and providing the funds, but the effect and the end result is the same, which is wonderful. These two programs are so similar that people find it hard to know whether they have been financed under life or environment programs. How can we simplify the documentation? Probably we should add an opportunity for every contract to have an eligible cost, which would be the preparation of an information system, because there is a lot of paper. I have more than 1 ton of paper from documentation provided by 1,000 households, and this is not environmentally friendly. A lot of trees have been cut for this. But when we speak about such a large database of people, considering that we're among the small beneficiaries, let's not speak about Sofia, Burgas, and Rus and the other Bulgarian big cities. In Rus, there are many more individual households which are beneficiaries under this program. This is a gap, I think. This is a specific activity. It can resort to a software solution so that people who receive documents should be able to automatically allocate orders to suppliers. I have 20 teams on the field now, and they're working. Automation is necessary. Otherwise, the process is very complex. The good thing is we had enough time to prepare our teams. There are tools to allow us to set the control in the right way, from the first document which appears until the last document for the return of the old heating equipment falls smoothly. The principle is you return your old heating stove and you receive a new equipment. But we need such an automation software. I'm categorical and my colleagues will support me. So the cost for writing the software should be financed under the respective program, because this is dedicated software for this activity. Thank you for the exhaustive answer. We have another question that we could mention. How do you compare yourself as a municipality with the progress of similar programs in the other municipalities regarding similar schemes? Do you have the same problems as other municipalities? How do you compare to other municipalities working on the same scheme? and we will have a few more questions after you answer. I'll be brief. We are the leaders. The team is well motivated. The remuneration of the teams passes through the programs entirely. These are well balanced. People are interested to learn, work, and develop professionally in this domain. Both programs, we're leaders in both programs with regard to the implementation rates. The last but one question that I can see is, how do you reach people? Do you organize outreach campaigns, awareness raising campaigns, and how do you inform the citizens of Montana that there are options to replace old inefficient heating equipment? A good question. Both programs, Life and Environment, had several stages. Life had 3 stages and Environment had 2 stages. During the second stage of both programs, there was a large-scale information campaign. We used the local press, the national radio, but during the first stage, when we promoted the program itself and clarified things locally on site and through the media, we received a statement of interest. And this was a preliminary survey. We received more than 4,000 applications in the municipality. These applications were processed. And afterwards, when the second stage started, the real part, we gathered all these people in groups, in large halls for press conferences, in groups of 300, and we presented to these the details about the implementation of the program. We presented them the sample documents they should fill in and submit. And whenever there were third parties, like gas distribution companies, so I said that these are complex administrative things because it's too easy to supply a gas boiler, but the transaction should be completed once this gas boiler starts operating. And there are situations which concern structure of the Territory Act and so on. So if the process is automated through software, this would be very useful. It would facilitate largely the implementation. So we had 3 years to talk about this program. Some people even got fed up of information. When they started that Life started earlier, they started asking, and how about us? When can we apply? And we told them, now you can apply. So this is the mechanism. We turn to people directly, we gather them, we clarify things to them and explain them. There is hardly a citizen in our town who doesn't know about this program, or who hasn't heard about it, or who doesn't know what it is about and what benefit it brings. Not only would they have a brand new piece of equipment in their home, but that this equipment would lead to cleaner air and easier maintenance. Thank you. I can see that Gennady has a question. We all heard the strengths of these programs and about your efforts, but the reverse side of the coin is that there was a lot of skepticism and bad words about these programs. People said that you only covered several hundred households. Did this foul-mouthing reflect on the success? Was it harmful? Did you manage to overcome this? Did you manage to prove the municipality's good intentions, in fact, or do we have such criticism still? We continue to show skepticism and continue to say there is something wrong in the whole thing.
Well, usually when public institutions. Yeah, the sound is not clear. We as public institution, we distribute public resources, and in Bulgaria, you know, all the time there is talk about the appropriate or inappropriate distribution of such resources. Therefore, in all our tenders, we have always awarded at least 2 suppliers. But we're talking about a lot of appliances, and basically, if you have a single supplier, if there are risks for risks of failure to supply the necessary equipment, for example, 5,000 air conditioning units per year. So also those aspects related to the economic condition, the war, etc., this reflects this brings to disruption of activities, and this is not only in Montana that this program is operating, it's operating in other municipalities too. So the schedule of, it's very important to have scheduled and regular supplies, because this may compromise the work of the municipality. That's why we allow maximum number of suppliers it's important not to have discrimination criteria. The most important thing is that this program reach the people as soon as possible, and this involves enormous efforts. I want to thank our mayor, Zlatko Živkov, who is very strong supporter of to have a clean, green town. And I, as part of his team, I'm fully supportive too. This is not an idea, it's a mission, because we live in this town. Our kids will live there, and they will continue to live there. So it's very important to start at the very beginning in the right way, on the right foot, to approach this as a mission, also to get the right people, not just in terms of financial resources, but also in terms of awareness. Our team is quite big, versatile specialists are there. This is for the purpose of being able to meet and respond to any contingency. So yes, negative aspects will always be. The thing is to do our job as we want to do it and to reach the people. And we are all the time in contact with households. Two-way communication, and until all the whole operation is done with a single household, this takes at least 4 or 5 interactions, meetings, and on a daily basis we monitor how things are going. Every day we are making the plan for the next day, etc. Sorry if we already discussed this, I may have missed it in your presentation. Did you have any joint public procurement procedures with other municipalities, or did you go alone? For the appliances, municipalities do this separately. For the measuring stations under LIFE program, the public procurement, the procedure was carried out at the level of Sofia, and in Sofia, and we got this. Is there sense to pull your or your procurement procedures with other municipalities? Is it feasible? Basically, the more decentralized the system is, the more flexible, the more quick it is, in terms of also social and other aspects too. The only downside is the slow process of reimbursement, and also the fact that no funds are provided. Eligible costs for designing software is there are no costs for designing software are not eligible. Basically, these such resources are not provided for. And this, and it's not just about getting the documents, it's printing out. No, it's about monitoring everything, tracing everything. So this requires algorithm, and this requires the proper operations. Thank you. I see that we have one last question from Facebook. Did you apply the approach for putting filters on the chimneys of households with that use fossil fuel? No, such approach we didn't have this approach because it's not eligible for financing. This was discussed in the media in connection with the program for environment. However, eventually it was not approved as eligible cost expense. Thank you so much, Mr. Georgiev. Gennady, if there are questions, I can see none here. I would like to thank Mr. Georgiev for being here and for presenting and for answering the question. It was very informative. Tomorrow we continue our conference. Tomorrow would be the 4th day of our conference.
Interpreters. And the thing is that tomorrow we are going to continue again at exactly the same time, 9 Central European time and 10 Eastern European time. In the previous 2 days, we spoke about the improved energy ambition of the EU, the role and the importance of the renewable energy in our heating and cooling. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, it's what you can expect from the last 2 days of the conference. Actually, tomorrow we will have a deep dive into the topic of clean air and the connections between clean air and heating. And Friday, it's dedicated to district heating decarbonization. So you can check again our program on our webpage of the conference, energiazahorod.com. And yes, see you tomorrow. We are continuing straight at 9 Central European time and 10 Eastern European time. So see you tomorrow, and have a good day.